Hello, and welcome to the Oily Crafter YouTube channel. My name is Dr. Greg Medore. My call sign is Alpha India 5 Hotel Victor. And today we will be talking about a Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug. This will be the second part. We'll be focusing on today on the AnyTone878 radio, more specifically, and about a couple of different scenarios here. So the first scenario that I have and we'll work through is I have an AnyTone878UVII Plus radio, and I need a code plug for my radio. My firmware is a different version, and what do I need to do to get a code plug into this radio? And specifically, we'll be focusing on this Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug that I've been working with the Tulsa Aries Mercy coordinator to consolidate and compile this this code plug. And we'll talk a little bit here in just a minute about what's in this code plug. The second scenario that we'll talk through is I have an AnyTone878UVII Plus radio, and I need to update my current Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug. So we'll talk about both of those. And you'll say, well, this is very specific to the AnyTone radio. Well, those are the ones that I happen to have in that I own and that I can actually test on. I previously did a video on the AnyTone 578 UV3 Pro and Plus radio. That's their mobile rig. And then I will be making another video for the AnyTone 168 radio. It's the newer release version of an HT. Has a few less features on it, in my opinion, than the 878 does, but that code plug is also available for that. So with that, let's get started on what is contained in this code plug today. So let me pull this up, and so the first part of this code plug, this is an Excel spreadsheet that I pulled together. And you'll be wondering, well, why did I create this in Excel? Well, I created it in Excel because there are a lot of changes. It's very easy to manipulate this data and get things put in a certain order very easily using Excel, and then I can export them to CSV files to be able to import into my radio, right? But let's start first by, we want to make sure that on our radio, right here, we want to make sure that we have a good backup of the code plug. Whatever's in that code plug first, we want to do that. So what we're going to do is make sure our COM port, and we say, okay, well, I have two COM ports here, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to turn off this radio right here. Right? So I'm going to turn it back on. Now watch the COM ports as we power this radio back on. And you'll notice right here we come up with a USB serial device, and then it'll say COM4. Now it's very important that you pay attention to what that COM port is, so you select the right COM port when reading or writing to and from the radio. So COM4, remember that. So right here, the other thing we need to do is we need to determine, okay, well, what version of firmware am I running on my radio? So as you'll notice right here, I'm going to come over here, and we're going to go to Menu, going to come down here to Settings. We're going to come down here to Device Info, and then we're going to scroll down through here. And we notice it's firmware version 3.04. So what I'll need to do is I need to make sure that I have the properly matched version of CPS software. In this particular case, I have 304 installed. Now, if for some reason you don't have that list or that version of software, you don't have that available, then let me show you where you need to go to download that. My good friends at bridgecomsystems.com, they have a good support system there, and and they have a lot of supporting material on their website. So you go to their site and you click on support. In this case, the AnyTone878. And then you can scroll down through here and you can see the different versions of software you can download. So in this case, I have 304 on the radio. Now I already have it installed, but you would need to download this, unzip it, and then install the CPS software. So in this case, I already have it installed. So what I'm going to do, first thing before I do anything else, remember column 4, hit OK, program, read from radio. I'm going to say no, we're going to read the data, and we're going to say other data right here. Now, why is it important to do this? Well, let's say something goes wrong and you install a code plug and nothing seems to be working. If you don't have a good backup of what's in your radio, how are you going to get back to where you were before? The answer is it'll be really kind of hard to do that. So I just read from a radio. Next thing I'm going to do a file save as, right? And right here, I'm going to say, and notice it's radio 4, so I'm going to click on this, but what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change the date. Northeast Oklahoma CodePlug D178. You're going to call it a name that you know what it is. Today I'm going to use this name. I want to include the radio model. I also want to include the version of software it is. My name, put my call sign, radio 4 as a designator if you got more than one radio, and then a date, and then I use an A for alpha, my very first iteration of the day. So I'm going to hit save. Okay, and so now we've got that saved. Okay, I want to come back over here. Okay, I have an AnyTone radio. My firmware may be different. In this particular case, the firmware that's in my radio and the firmware I'm using in the CPS, those are the same. So it's a close scenario, but I just want to show you this process. So what I had done is I built a master code plug, and in that master code plug, matter of fact, I'll just show you what that is. So right here, we're in Northeast Oklahoma and 878. 878 master code plug. This guy right there. I'm going to hit open. Now I'm going to show you what's unique about this particular code plug. And this in fact is a blank code plug that I built for anyone to use. Okay? Now, one of the first things I want to show you is if I come into digital and radio ID, well, guess what? This is generic. So if you use this code plug as it is, you will have to put in your DMR ID, your name, and your call sign. That's one of the first things that you have to do. Okay? One of the other things that you'll want to do under optional settings and power on, you want to change it to your name and your call sign here on this page. Your startup zones, you may want these to be different. That's entirely up to you what you want to do. But these are the default settings that I have in this code plug. So if you want to customize it, that's perfectly fine. Right? Under key function, I've defined key functions in here. Okay, that's all good. Right? So now here under APRS, again, the 878, it fully supports APRS, both digital and analog, receive, send, etc. It supports all of it. The 168, it's a little different on its functionality for the APRS, so and GPS. So if before you buy anything, please look at the feature set. Talk to somebody and say, so you can make an informed decision on, do I want the 168 or do I want the 878? Do I want all the features, or am I okay with a fewer number of features? either one's fine. You just make an informed decision, right? So under the APRS tab, which is under Common Settings, you would want to put your call sign in here, right? You're sending APRS sending text. You'd want to change that, but quite frankly, the rest of these settings, you probably don't want to change. You probably don't. Now, the max transmit interval, sure, you might want to make that longer. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. APRS auto transmit interval, you may want to make that longer too. It depends on what your specific situation and scenario is. Now, what I will say is, see right down here where it says DCS and D021, you do not want to change that setting. If you change that setting, I could pretty much tell you that at least here in Northeast Oklahoma, your APRS is not going to function correctly. So do yourself a favor, don't change it. You want an analog APRS transmit, you want that set to wide. You want pass all, you want it all on so that you can get all the different information that's available via APRS. You may not use it, but I would turn it on by default so that, and you may later, you may decide you want to turn it off. But settings in here, again, settings under optional setting, power on, you probably want to, you will want to change, you will definitely want to change this. And down here, that's kind of optional, up to you. Also, and we already talked about digital radio ID, we changed that. And then under prefabricated SMS text. So this radio, again, the 878, can send SMS text, right? Now you may want to change these settings as well, but they are in there by default, and so you can go in there and change those, right? Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the this code plug. So this code plug, most recently, I made some changes to this code plug. And I added the Chandler DMR repeater. It was not perfectly originally in there. I corrected a PL tone for one of the repeaters that was in the list. I turned off the 500-hour record. APRS, the two-call function, APAT 51 for the 578, the 878 is APAT 81, and the 168 is also APAT 81. Turn off GPS roaming, make sure that GPS is turned on, and get GPS positioning is turned on, and then add the Bixby Leonard repeater. So let's go in here, and we're going to double check these settings here. So we're going to, under optional, and GPS was one of the settings. GPS positioning, make sure that that's turned on. GPS roaming, make sure that that's turned off. Right, and then let's go in there and we're going to look under APRS and we're going to make sure. Okay, the 878 APAT 81, DCS we talked about D021. The digipeater path wide 1-1, comma, no space, wide 2-1. Right, those should be in there. Right, in the zone file, we added the Chandler repeater, we added the Bixby Leonard repeater. Okay, so we've got a section in here for analog repeaters. We've got a section in here for local crossband repeat. That only works with the 578. So in this particular case, we'll have that hidden for the 878. Okay, the next zone, 220 megahertz. Well, guess what? That's available on the 578. It doesn't work on the 878, so we'll hide that zone as well. And we've got NOAA channels. We've got APRS, both receive for North America, receive ISS, and the digital APRS channels. Then here we have some channels for the hotspot. So if you have a hotspot, this thing's already set up and ready to go. Now if your frequency for your hotspot is a little different, that's okay. We can easily go in and change it, while maintaining flexibility for those people that may not have a hotspot. Okay, here's another zone, 50 states, again for use with the hotspot. It has North America and all 50 states in this code plug. TGIF, if you're running using a hotspot you can also use your hotspot, say running WPSD, you can run TGIF and set it to where it can connect to TGI network as well. Here's a HS-US regional. You have several different zones within the United States area. Here in Northeast Oklahoma, we're in HS Area 5. But again, all the different areas, they're in there, so it's just easy to, you can switch over to that zone. You can change the frequency on your radio, and you're up and going. Now here's some favorites here. Now you're probably wondering, why did I put these in there? Well, these are examples of, if you want to do a private call to an individual, those are in there. Right? Reboot, this is if you have a hotspot and you need to reboot or shut down without having to bring up a computer or a web browser to go in and tell your hotspot to shut down. You can issue the command to reboot your hotspot, shut down your hotspot. All-Star node and clear node, I have one of each. Well, a lot of people I know, they have an All-Star node or they have a clear node. Basically, if you're going to use that type of technology with it, the channel's already in there. Now, your frequency may need to change. Okay, that's fine. Very easy to change, save it, and you're back up and running. Couple of examples, digital, analog, and then here starts the different repeaters. We've got the Tulsa DMR repeater, and you can see the channels that are in there. Each of these channels for each of the repeaters is set for the proper receive and transmit frequency. It's also set for the proper color code and time slot. Then we have the Manford DMR repeater, Keatonville, Mounds, Muskogee, Big Cabin, Depew, Oklahoma City 1, Oklahoma City 2, and you'll notice some of these are, the zone is hidden. The reason it's hidden is because I have not been in those specific areas to be able to actually test those repeaters and make sure they are 100% correct. To the best of my ability, when you look on repeater book, you look on the settings, they are in there and they are correct, but I'm going to hide them until I can confirm, or someone can validate and confirm that yes, those settings are correct. There's Norman, Edmond, Hills, Bartlesville 1 and 2. Here's Claremore DMR repeater. There's Stillwater DMR repeater, Ponca City DMR repeater, and the Chandler and the Bixby Leonard DMR repeater are now in there. Here's 50 states. Notice this doesn't have a hotspot in front of it. That means these are set to run off of one of the DMR repeaters. In this particular case, by default, I have them set up to the Tulsa Central DMR repeater. There's US regional. Remember those areas? Those are set up for, again, those can easily be changed from a Tulsa Central repeater to another repeater. Then DMR Tulsa. Here's a hospital net. This is a very simple frequencies that I previously set up for the hospital net. I've got a good friend of mine runs the DMR Tech Michigan. Again, those are hidden as well. We can easily unhide those and make them available to folks, but some folks, what I tried to do was cover several different use case scenarios with this code plug. And then hospital net. So these frequencies and repeaters that are in this zone were actually provided by Tulsa Area Emergency Management, and we went through and validated those settings, and we had put all of those in there. And you'll notice these ones that have an S, like WXNet and then a frequency, WXNet S and then a frequency. So this means this is a simplex version of this one. This is a simplex version of that one, simplex version, etc. So as you can see there. Okay? So that's all of the zones right there. Okay. So that is the default zone. So what I then did was, from the default code plug that's the base code plug that is available from that website, right? And let me show you that website here right quick. Okay, so here is the URL to that website, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you using Microsoft Edge because in this particular case, you can use any browser you want to get there, but bottom line is you do not have to have a OneDrive account in order to be able to access this. So I copy and I pasted that URL right there, right here. I copy and pasted that URL into the browser window. Drops you off in this folder. AnyTone, at some point in the future, I will have other models of DMR radios in here with that code plug set up for that. Still, that's a work in progress. So here you can see under AnyTone 168UV, 578UV3 Pro Plus, 878UV2 Plus. So, and then I've got a change log here. If I open up this file and I look at that file, here's my change log of changes, and this is set to be updated once a quarter, by the way. But this is a list of all the changes that occurred most recently. So I would literally come in here and I would click here. Now, for those of you, let's say you have an 878 and you're on 304. You could actually click right here. You could download and you could use that RDT file and plug it in and you're good to go. If you don't have 304, you've got a different version, then you would need to download this zip file and you would need to unzip that zip file, right? But there's a scenario in this particular case where, okay, I've got basically what I want to do is, okay, again, we're going to come back to the scenario here. First scenario is I need a code plug. So if you need a code plug and you're on a different version, okay, well, guess what? In order to do that, I'm going to go back and I'm going to open up that one code plug that I had there. This is the code plug that I read from the radio a while ago. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. Right? So basically I could go set COM4, I could do program, and I could read from radio. And we're exactly back to that point we were a while ago where we've read the code plug that's in the radio. I saved it off to that file. Okay, so now at this point we're ready to replace it with the Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug. So we've got that's read into our CPS software. Now, why it's important to do this, if you don't read from the radio first, you could potentially get a baseband error, in which case you would have to read from the radio and then do what I'm getting ready to show you, which is go to Tool, go to Import. Going to hit OK. Import from list file. Remember that base code plug that I just showed you? Well, that would be right in here, this 878. There's an LST file. If I click on that LST file and I say open, import file and list, we're going to say yes. Now you're probably wondering, okay, well, what the heck is what's in that LST file? Well, that LST file, I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to show you. So in here, there is see if I can find it, 878, right here. So if I come in here and I open up this LST file, open with, and I say Notepad. See, the LST file, all that is a list of the different CSV files that you're telling it to import, right? So that's what we're doing. Now, what I can tell you is that if I come back here and I look at this, sorry, I should have showed you this before I close that down. is that LSD file. What does it do? That LSD file, it also has digital contact list right here. Okay, well, digital contact list, where you get your digital contact list is you bring up your web browser. To get the current one, you go to, and I go to AnyTone.org and I click on download DMR IDs, which is right here. Click on download DMR list now, and then I click on all and I download it. Okay, now what it did is it put those in my, and it downloaded this contacts file. And I open that up, there's a CSV file, and I open that up, and guess what? It'll have all the most recent version of the digital contacts list. Now, you're wondering, why is this taking so long? It's taking so long because it's actually importing in all of those digital contacts into the CPS software. Right? So as you recall, when you perform that function, it usually takes about 2.5 minutes, somewhere around in there, to import all of those digital contacts. And then the next step you have to do is you actually have to write that to the radio. You got to write the radio program, and you have to write the digital contacts. Now when I go to write the digital contacts to the radio, that takes around 10 minutes. And I'm not going to sit here and have you sit here and wait while it's trying to write that to the radio. So at that point, I will pause the video recording, and then I'll come back when it's done. So this takes about 2.5 minutes. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pause the recording, and then we'll pick it back up when this is done importing right here on the list here. Okay, so as you can see, the import of all of these files is now complete. Okay, so what I want to show you is now you'll notice that I have the Chandler repeater, I have the Bixby Leonard repeater in there, right? Those settings are in there. I can come in here to APRS, and you'll notice that, okay, this is set to DO21, this is set to APAT 81, right? Got it? I want to come into optional setting, again, power on. Those settings I will need to double check and make sure. When I go to write them to the radio, I would need to come in here and put my name and my call sign in here, right? With regard to the optional settings here for, the APRS settings, my apologies. I would want to put my call sign in here. I would want to send in my, whatever text you would want to send from your radio, you would want to plug that in there as well. Radio ID, you would also want to come in here and you would want to plug in your DMR ID and your name and your call sign in here as well, right? Okay, so, and all my channels are up to date. When I come in and I check my channels, the channels that I added in, these are the ones for the Chandler and the Bixby Leonard repeaters. Those are the channels that I added in here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to hit File Save As. And I'm going to say, in this particular case, I'm going to go over here to Custom, which is where I was working a while ago, and I'm going to assign this a B, because now, basically, my first iteration, I read from the radio, saved that as A. Now I've made changes to my code plug, and I'm going to make that a B here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save right here. Right? So now when I go to write to the radio, I'm going to do a setcom, again COM4 from earlier, program, and we're going to say write to radio. Hit OK. Now in this particular case, I would need to write other data I would also need to write the digital contact data. Now, you can check mark both of these, but I tend to do them one at a time. So I typically do other data first. I hit OK. This one, very quick. It's less than a minute. And this one writes it to the radio. And we're just waiting for that to finish up. And then, as you can see, it's copying data to the radio. Please wait. Don't power off. You can see this is done up here. The radio hasn't finished yet. Now, in this case, I would have customized it for whoever the radio is for, and I would have put in there, I would have said, okay, got it, and changed their settings to whatever their specific settings were. Okay, again, set COM 4, program. We're going to write to radio. We're going to hit OK. Now, in this case, I need to write the digital contact list. So I'm going to uncheck other data, check digital contact list, and this will take about 10 minutes. So as soon as we start writing it to the radio, I'll show you. The first part goes very quick. This part right here is the part that takes roughly, some people say 8.5 minutes, some people say 12 minutes. I'm just going to pick somewhere around 10 minutes and call it good. But in any case, I'm going to pause the recording so you don't sit here and have to watch the whole 10 minutes. And we'll be back when it's done. Okay, so I do want to point out here that the writing of the digital contacts to here has been completed, as you can see here by the screen. And if we come down here to the digital contact list, how we can verify that is when we downloaded the digital contact list the other day, it had 293,850. Keep in mind that number changes every single day. So just to look and make sure that we can confirm the number of contacts, digital contact IDs in there. $293,850 is the number. $850. So all those are in the code plug and they are written to the radio. All right. So again, doing it this many by this method, tool import and pointing to the LST file, I am 100% sure that regardless of the status of your radio, before you do that import, you would have to come in here and you would have to change your radio ID, the DMR ID, and the name and the call sign in there. Your APRS text, you would have to change your APRS text and your call sign. When you come up here to optional setting and power on, you would have to change your name and you would have to change your call sign here. Quite honestly, you may want to change the startup channels, startup zone and startup channels there as well. Right? So you will absolutely have to change those, assuming that you use this method before you can then use this code plug for your radio. Now, that was this first scenario up here, right? So second scenario, I want to show you a completely different scenario. So here we're going to say, okay, hang on just one second. Okay. Of course, I put all that information in there. Remember, I did save it to B, right? So if I wanted to put, let's say we're going to start from where we were before we made that change. Let me check and make sure. I think I may have just saved over the top of that file. custom. And I sure did. I saved right over the top of that file. Well, the good news is I have one of these from the same exact file from yesterday. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say File, Open, and we're going to come over here, Radio 4. We're going to do that one right here. Okay. So now what I want to show you is I want to show you that remember those channels we had in here a while ago? 700, 720, they're not in there. Zone, I want to show you right in here. We had the other two repeaters that were in here as well, Bixby Leonard, as well as the Chandler repeater. They were in here in this list, right? So they're not in there now, so we're back to our original state. So, right, so we're going to hit Save As, and we're going to say Radio. We're going to save it back so we have that same file there. So I want to show you radio ID list. This has got my radio ID in it now, my DMR ID, and my name and my call sign. I look in APRS. Guess what? It has the sending text that I want to send. It has, this is for the fixed beacon. So if you ever wanted to do on APRS, by the way, if you want to change this to your address, you have to, in order to change these, you have to come up here to fixed location beacon. You have to turn that on, and then and only then you can change these settings right down here. So want to be sure and turn that back off again, right? So let's make sure. Okay, that's off. Okay, got it. So the other thing under optional setting, I want to show you power on. It's got my information in here. I don't want that. I want this, and I want (4385) startup zone here. For me, I want this set to hotspot, and I want this set to we'll just say Oklahoma East, right? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit File, Save As. Okay, again, this is a, right, and optional setting again, power on. Okay, that information's there. GPS is on, GPS roaming is off, etc. APRS, again, making sure that the 2-call number, which is right up here, that 2-call number, that is set to APAT 81, which is correct for the 878, DCS 2021, APRS wide. Those are all good. So I'm going to set COM 4, tool. We're going to say, program, write to radio. Okay, other data. Okay. So now what we know for certain is that information is in the radio. As soon as this gets done writing to the radio. Okay? And if we want to look at the number of digital contacts here in this list, notice that we don't have the updated digital contacts in there. That's okay. Basically, what I'm trying to do is take you back to the point where I did the other scenario, reset it back to where we were, and we're going to do this one right here, scenario 2. Okay? Need to update my current Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug. So at this point, what I'm going to tell you is these are the minimum steps you would need to do to be able to update this code plug. So remember I told you earlier that we did this, we did an export of that base code plug, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tile, we're going to do a tool, and we're going to do an import. The first thing we're going to do is we are going to import talk groups. So let's say, for example, let's say that the talk group list, let's say that talk group list changed. So I'm going to come down here to the export of that. Right? I could achieve the same thing. I could achieve the same thing by coming in. This is my spreadsheet again. Remember, my spreadsheet has all of these analog repeaters from Repeater Brook, all the 220, the NOAA, etc. You know, all these settings for all these DMR repeaters, that also came from Repeater Brook. So, and in this spreadsheet, I have the talk groups. So I could right click here on the talk groups, and I could say right click, copy, come up here to do file, blank workbook, click right here, right click, paste the values right here, and then I can then do a file save as, browse, desktop, radio configs, Northeast Oklahoma. I'm going to change this. I need a comma delimited CSV file, and here's my talk groups. And I saved this here yesterday, but I'm just showing you what I did. I would, like in this case, I would like change the date to whatever the current date is, and I would hit save. Right? And then I could do the same thing over here on the channels. I could right click here, right click, say copy, do a blank workbook, click right here, right click, paste values, and then I would do a file save as. I'm going to go right back to where we were a while ago. And change this to comma delimited, Northeast Oklahoma. We're going to come in here and we're going to say master code plug channels, right? So right here, and we're going to say 10, July 10th, right? So now we've got those, and I can close that and I can minimize this out of my way. So back over to here again. In CPS software, tool, import, hit OK. And then we're going to say import from file. And we're going to say Northeast Oklahoma. Oh, that's the LST file, sorry. Sorry, went down a rabbit trail, is the wrong trail. So I want to update my talk groups. I'm going to do these one at a time. Talk groups. There's my talk groups. I'm going to say open. Now I'm going to import these basically one CSV file at a time. First I'm going to do talk groups. Okay. Import is complete. That's the first thing I'm going to do. Okay. Second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to import channels. Now notice I have nothing here in the 700s. I'm going to do a tool, import, OK. I'm going to hit channel, right? And from this channel here, I've got channels right here. I'm going to hit open. And I'm going to hit import. Notice all these channels are now in here. And then last but not least, I would do the zone file after. And let me be abundantly clear here. It's extremely important that you do it in the order I just showed. Talk groups first, then channels, then zones. what that does is that will leave your existing code plug. It leaves all those optional settings that are in your code plug. It leaves those intact, but it updates your talk groups, it updates your channels, and it will update your zones. Right? So we're going to show you the zone part. Now in here in Tool and back to Import again, hit OK. Now I do want to point out in talk groups, I could have just as easily in talk groups, I could have come right here to the download. I did the zip file. Remember, I downloaded the zip file earlier. I extracted that zip file. This is the folder that those are from. The contents of that zip file. So I could have just as easily come in here to talk groups and hit open and hit import. Right? Same thing. So if you don't have the Excel spreadsheet, which you wouldn't, you're downloading it from the web page, you point it to the zip file with that being extracted. Hit OK. Tool, import, OK. Channels. Okay, we're going to come in here and we're going to point to the channel right here. We're going to hit open. We're going to hit import. And notice these were already there, but because I imported from the other file, but you get the idea. All right, then tool, import. Last thing we need to do is we need to go to the zone file. Now, let me show you why we need the zones. So we've got the channels in there, right? We've got the channels, but we go into zones. We still don't have the Chandler and the other Bixby Leonard repeater in there. So we need to import zones. Import, okay. Go to zone, right here, right down here. The zone CSV file. Open that, hit import. Notice you now have the Chandler and the Bixby zone in there, right? So the other thing I do want to point out is that we still don't have the updated contacts. Well, guess what? In that zip file, you have updated digital contacts that I just updated from July 8th. So now what I can do is I can come in and I can do tool and I can do import and I can hit OK. But before I do that, what I want to do is I want to show you this because this is important. This is why we're doing scenario 2. So I already had the digital code plug, the Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug installed. I just want to update it. Well, I go into APRS. Now, remember earlier when I imported the LST file, guess what? All of this stuff, basically this was blank. The call sign was blank. I have to go in here and change it. I go to the radio ID list. This was a generic setting. I had to change it. Okay, I had to come up here to optional setting, power on. This I had to change that as well. Right? So if you already have the code plug, the best thing for you to do, my opinion, is update the talk group list, update the channel list, update the zone list, and then update your digital contacts, and you're good to go. And again, you can do that even if you're not on 304, which is the version that I use to create the master code plug. You can still import those files. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and do a set COM4, program, write to radio. We're going to say other data. So now we're writing that code plug to the radio. So once this finishes writing, the last thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to update the digital contacts, because obviously at some point you're going to want to do that. So, and you can notice right here that it is in fact it was just finishing up the write to the radio. So the next thing we're going to do, tool import, last step, digital contact list. Again, we're pointing to the extracted files from the zip file that you downloaded from the URL I listed earlier. Now you're going to come in here and you're going to point to the digital contact list right there. Now notice how big this is. Well, keep in mind, this is going to take a couple of minutes to read it into the CPS, and then it'll take about 10 minutes to write it to the radio. And I'm not going to have you sit here and wait for this thing to update in real time. So we're going to hit, right here, we're going to hit import, and this is going to take a couple of minutes to do this. You can see. So I'm not going to make you sit here and wait, but I will come back when we're ready to update the radio. Okay, so the actual import into the CPS software has been completed. So our next step is to come up here. We're going to set COM4 again, program, write to radio. This is the last step, and then you'll be able to start using your code plug will be updated, and you'll be ready to go. So we're going to hit OK here. We're going to change this to digital contact list, because again, if we come down here and we look right here, I just want to show you this. Okay, so now if you look, they're in the CPS software, but they're not in the radio yet. So again, COM4, program, write to radio, OK, digital contact list, hit OK. This will take about 10 minutes. So we will pause, and we'll come back when this is finished writing to the radio. All right, so as you can see, the digital contacts are now written to the radio. So we're going to click OK here, and you notice here from the radio, basically subchannel is turned off right now. So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to look at these optional settings here, and in here it's going to say, let's see, not key function, power on display, let's see, power on, oh, right there. Nope. I always get confused on where it's at here on the key function. It's not there. Oh, work mode. Subchannel mode is off. Turn that back on. Let's say file save as. In this particular case, I've got a 710. That's a B, so this is actually, technically this is different. So I'm going to do a C right there. Got to wait for that to finish saving to the saving. There we go. Set COM4, program, write to radio, hit OK, uncheck that. So by default, the setup is that subchannel is turned on. Now in this particular case, but depending on the version of the CPS software you're running, it won't even save or export the optional settings. So that's why this write is complete. And you'll notice over here on the screen, the radio is now booting back up again. But you'll see, when you looked at it earlier, the subchannel was off. Now the subchannel will be, you'll notice subchannel is back on again. Now, if you wonder, okay, well, how do I turn off subchannel? Well, P1 long key. Well, if I hit P1 and long key, now you notice it's actually off. So, and the good news is, on the zones, when I go through these different zones here, you'll notice there's Bixby Leonard. Oops. They should say the Claremore zone here. Chandler zone, I mean, sorry, not Claremore. Chandler zone. Notice those zones are in there. So the good news is the radio is there, and by using this particular method, again, you'll notice I didn't have to change power on display, didn't have to change that. With regard to APRS, I didn't have to change the settings in here. I didn't have to change any of these. A call sign, your SSID. So by using scenario 2 and importing the talk groups, the channels, the zone, the digital contacts, all those settings. So that this kind of like, okay, I already have that code plug in there, but I want to update the code, the existing Northeast Oklahoma DMR master code plug. I want to update that as opposed to I don't have a code plug at all and I want to import it. So those are the settings there. So at this point, you're ready to use your radio, enjoy your radio. So again, I want to thank you so much for joining us today on the Oily Crafter YouTube channel. Again, my name is Dr. Greg Medore, and my call sign is Alpha India 5 Hotel Victor. I want to thank you for watching today. Please feel free to like and subscribe to our channel if you like the content, and feel free to leave us a comment or suggestion there in the YouTube video there. So with that, I'll say blessings to you and hope you have a wonderful and blessed rest of your week. And again, thank you for watching.